So two things on that. One, how long had you been sitting on this before you decided to make it public to everybody? And what was on this list that you needed to check off to know that you were able to fully commit to stepping back into the octagon?
Yeah. So I pretty much was really considering, I pretty much made up my mind, I would say in June after I had my son.
Oh, wow, that
I
early.
was locked down. I was in Singapore, mind you, and the pandemic had really shut everything down. So I was, like everybody else, in that kind of forced slowdown. But I felt very isolated, and I really started to reevaluate the things that are most important in my life. And obviously, family and friends, very important in life. When you
Mhm.
really realize that, when you move across the world, and then a pandemic hits, and the borders shut down, and the world shuts down, and like you cannot get there and they can't get to you, like it just was like really made me reobserve what is very important. And then um time is an important thing too. Like I felt like time was just kind of like dwindling away for no real purpose at the time, because there was nothing that could be done, right? Nobody was working really. Like I was working for one championship, we weren't able to throw events, like things like that, right? And then the last thing is like dreams and goals, and I just started to reevaluate, what do I really want? I'm 34 years old. um you know and it just hit me. I was just like, yeah, I want to fight again, so I brought it to Johnny's attention, and I just said, what do you think if I want to do this again? Like, and he's like, well, if you really want to, he's like, of course I support you. He's like, but babe, it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot because we have the two kids now. It's like, I just want you to understand. He's always my rock. He always kind of brings everything back full circle. He puts it in perspective, and he makes sure that, I understand like exactly, because I do get a bit like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to, and I kind of get a little bit everywhere. And he's always the one to kind of hone it back in for me and just be like, hey, just,
Mhm.
just keep in mind. But so supportive, the most amazing supportive man. I'm so lucky. I'm like, I don't know what I did to deserve such a great man, but I basically decided in June that I wanted to fight again, but I had just given birth.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, well, there's a lot I have to do to even get like physically. And also, so to checklist, right? Make sure I'm still physically able to do this. And make sure that I don't get injured coming back. That was a big thing, because I knew my mind would be in one place, but my body would be in another. And I would remember how I would do it, but physically it was going to take me some time to get on that level again.
Right.
And so I had to ease back in and kind of like pull back the reins a lot of times. Of course, there was a little bit of hiccups along the way. Um, and so I had to like do the right things, not get injured, get back into really good shape, and then reassess, like, am I still liking sparring? Do I like going to the gym and getting in those tough rounds? And, what is my instinct? Do I fight or do I flight? Like, what is
Mhm.
it? And I'm definitely still fight, like, no doubt about it. But, a lot of time had gone by. It was a lot of time. It was like 4 years since I had really committed myself to doing that. So, like, these were things I needed to make sure were still in line with, like, with what my vision was and what my goals were. So, and then obviously the checkbox of the UFC, like still wanting me to fight,
Mhm.
still making sure my contract was in accordance, and like the pay, and all those things. And weight class, right? Had to pick a weight class. So those were all, yeah, all the things that I needed to make sure were in line with the vision and the goal before I could really commit and be like, okay, I'm going to do this.
And now here we are. Now, I mean, to imagine it's only, 3 months away for your matchup to happen. Who have you been keeping an eye on during this 4 years of you being away from the octagon? Were you still closely following everything and kind of keeping an eye on what was happening on the scene?
Yeah, of course. A lot of the women. I mean, I'm a big fan of Juliana Pena, because we grew up in this sport together. We're both from Washington State. We were training together well before women's MMA was ever thought to be cool. So years ago, like at least a decade ago, but we were training together. And so I've obviously always followed her fights. I've obviously kept up with Amanda, her fights, her being the greatest female, in my opinion. She's the greatest women's fighter of all time. And just, yeah, any of the female fights. I even really like love to keep up with Zhang Wei Li. Like what she's been doing has been, Joanna,
Mhm.
Jacek, Rose Namajunas, all those women, Valentina Shevchenko. But of course, you know, my division, I always have like a special interest. So I watched the fights and just kind of was quietly, you know, observing them, but and not even thinking that I was going to come back. You know, it really wasn't until I knew, until June, that I was like, wow, okay, I think I really want to do this.
Perfect timing too, right? Like right after you have a baby, being like, I think I should go back and start doing this
I know.
right now.
So crazy, right? But that's exactly, I think I had hit my valley, so to speak. And not that I was like in a sad place necessarily, but like physically, you know, that was like one of um the most I would have to accomplish from that point get back to a high level athlete, right? It's like right after I had my son, I'm like, not only do I have to get back into good physical shape, but I have to recover from birth, right? I have to like
Yeah.
have the postpartum period and kind of like go through that segment of just getting back into normal person shape and then accomplish all these other goals and not get hurt along the way. So I think there was that big challenge, and that always seems to motivate me. Yeah, it always really motivates me to have a lot to have to overcome and accomplish
Mhm.
to be able to reach my goal.
Even just like the importance of you taking that time. So, I mean, for you to retire from UFC, retire from fighting 4 or 5 years ago to now you being back in this spot. I mean, it's not this like 6 month window of you realizing where you want to be, but you really needed to take that time for yourself, right?
Right. Yeah, I needed to take the time for myself to like I said, to really make sure that I'm just not totally crazy, because I can definitely be crazy when it comes to the things that I want to do and accomplish. And I think most people would probably look at me and say, you're crazy right now, but um, that's fine. Like I'm so used to being underestimated and people trying to put limitations on what they think I'm capable of or what I
Mhm.
can accomplish. And there's nothing more motivating, I think, than being underestimated, at least in my opinion. You know, people
Yeah.
telling me what they think my ceiling is. It's like, you don't get to dictate that. You
You
know,
don't know my ceiling.
exactly. I'm like, I'm the only person that gets to dictate that. So for me, um, I think that that time that I took postpartum to just get back into the gym and recover and do all the things I needed to do, like I'm really proud of myself because I've
Mhm.
come such a long way in a relatively short period of time. And I feel really good about where I'm at. And it just kind of confirmed it going to the PI and seeing all the physical assessments right there.
Mhm.
It's science. It's right there in
Yeah.
front of me, you know? So a lot of those questions too were just really confirmed that I'm doing all the right things.